Hi, before I continue with this video. I just wanted to show the fact this drawing is mine. I just forgot to record the sketching process, so I saved the time-lapse of it. It's based on this sketch I did at the end of January. But I really wanted to try and do more on it. Also sorry for the rest of the vid. You can see the video. Film I'm watching I can't do anything without. Having something on in the background law anyhow enjoy.
Hi everyone, before this video starts, I want to say that this video will contain heavy Inside Number 9 spoilers and themes that may not be appropriate for anyone under 15, such as child abuse, alcoholism, and generally more dark topics. If anything I've mentioned or going to mention in this video upsets you, or if you are, as I said, under 15 years old, this video is not for you. And most of my videos aren't for children anyway, so if you're a child, please leave. If you haven't seen this episode of Inside Number 9 yet, and if you haven't, what's wrong with you? I do recommend watching it. I don't want to explain the plot because it would take so much time, and oh my god, I just don't even want to. But I'll be giving a little bit of plot for certain scenes. However, it'll be best if you've watched it first, because this script is so freaking incoherent. It's unbelievable. Because I was writing it as I watched the episode, and I was fiending out because I couldn't I had to keep pausing it and writing down. English literature is coming in handy, okay? My analysis of the language of the it's like analysing Macbeth. So if I say stuff that just doesn't make sense, I'm sorry, I just really like this episode. Anyway, enjoy. It's gonna be really sad, so I'm sorry if it's a bit melancholy for my first actual proper video. But yeah, enjoy. Okay, so I think it's a general quota, unless this is just me, that season 7 of Inside Number 9 is the best. It's got 5 of the a set of 6 strong episodes, including Merrily Merrily, Mr. King, 9 Lives Cat, and A Random Act of Kindness, which are 4 of the strongest episodes in the entire series. And then you have Kid/Nap in between, which is another strong one, just not my personal favourite. And it ties the first 5 together. And the finale, which this video is all about, Wise Owl, is the best of all, I think. In my opinion, it is the best Inside Number 9 episode ever made in the history of the planet. And Stephen Marie wrote it so beautifully that I cry every time I watch it. So, yay! At first glance, it's it may just seem like nostalgia bait for people who grew up in the 1970s and 80s, and the PSAs will come onto the TV and it's oh, we used to watch those, oh my god, that's crazy. But it, as the episode continues, it's revealed to be more dark and upsetting, and it deeply and heavily explores the topics of child abuse and how that can deeply affect a person. Wise Owl follows Ronnie, a man who is clearly emotionally stunted from trauma in his past. He's also mentally ill, with the episode quite clearly starting off with an attempt on his own life, which he fails in due to a flashback. Ronnie and his younger sister Joanne were a part of the series Wise Owl, or at least the children in the series represented them. I'm honestly not sure which. I believe it's up to interpretation, as some of the Wise Owl clips seem to be what were the actual PSAs, and some seem to be Ronnie's memory interfering with them, especially with the PSA about Joanne's birthday. While lighting her birthday cake, the 2 children set the house on fire, and Joanne did not make it. Ronnie has broken into his father's house and is staying there while his father is evidently away, which is not revealed until the end, and the house is full of really, 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 really scary taxidermy. Ronnie is played by Reece Shearsmith, who played this part so unbelievably sensitively and well. He took a dark topic and didn't add as many jokes to it, and he made sure to keep it serious, other than Steve Pemberton's character, of course, who, when appearing at the door to request a taxidermy of his daughter's rabbit Ferrari, Ronnie responds with the more serious line of, "I'm not supposed to talk to strangers." This moment is important because it shows that Ronnie, despite being grown, is evidently still following the teachings of Wise Owl, who told him not to talk to strangers while at the beach in one of the PSAs featured in the episode. Wise Owl knows best, he believes. Wise Owl can't do anything wrong. In the first PSA about Joanne's birthday, young Ronnie is silently and blindly using the matches to help light her cake, rather than interjecting about the safety of this. This time, Wise Owl does not swoop in to save them. Ronnie blames himself for what happened to Joanne over 40 years later, and he has been conditioned further by, in quotes, Wise Owl, to believe that it was his fault. When a cut to the hospital is done later on, Wise Owl swoops in and tells him that he mustn't tell anyone what really happened, which I'll touch on later. The next cut at the funeral, his father says, "It should have been you," further conditioning Ronnie to believe that he is in the wrong and blaming himself. Later, while Ronnie gets ready for bed, his mum FaceTimes him. Ronnie acts coldly towards her. I believe, and this is just my interpretation, this is because he believes she still blames him, which I think she did, but she still unconditionally loves him because he's her son. When he brings up the rabbit he's been asked to stuff, he speaks in quite a childish manner, saying, in quotes, "I had to stuff a Ferrari," end quote, referring to it like the car rather than the pet. He also argues back to her when she brings up an, in quotes, Dr. Donetto, saying that he doesn't even know anything about him. She then asks him, almost pleads him, not to do, in quotes, something silly before what is implied to be Joanne's anniversary, and he promises back reluctantly. She tells him that she loves him, but he cuts her off, ending the call and laying down on the floor of the living room, ready for bed. He then sees a naked man wearing an owl helmet. The head spins, and Ronnie panics suddenly. However, it was just a nightmare. I believe this vision represents how Ronnie has blocked his trauma out through the lens of Wise Owl, further believing that even though Wise Owl's actions are wrong, he can do no wrong because he keeps Ronnie safe. Ronnie attempts to do taxidermy on the rabbit, Ferrari, as a Wise Owl PSA about taxidermy is played. This is evidently, in my opinion, a memory of Ronnie's rather than an actual PSA. This may be because as a child, Ronnie's father showed him and Joanne how to do taxidermy, which is really weird to show your kids. Like, why would you show that to your kids? Even if it was your, hobby, why would you show that to your kids? I would literally lose my head. Later in the episode, Steve's character asks him for the rabbit back as he believes he is not who he says he is. And he shouts at him for this reason. And in that moment, Ronnie is vulnerable. He covers his ears with his hands and starts to panic. He didn't follow Wise Owl's orders, talking to the stranger, and it all went wrong. And the flashbacks of the house fire with Wise Owl looming over play. I might have stolen this bit of analysis from a great YouTuber called Wee Lynn, who did an excellent video on Wise Owl that you should definitely watch after this. But I think it is played this way because of the expectancy that Wise Owl from the PSAs will come and save them. Like some children in the 70s and 80s believed that the characters from the PSAs they saw would really help them in these dangerous situations. The fact Wise Owl is looming rather than intervening is such a dark detail that makes me so sad looking back. When Ronnie's father, named Wilf, arrives home, he immediately heads to get a drink from the liquor cabinet. Wilf, after offering Ronnie a drink, implies that due to the past, Ronnie was put in a psychiatric ward to help cope with the trauma, and Wilf never visited because it would, quote, make it worse. This implies that his father possibly feels guilty for pinning most of the blame onto Ronnie. However, I believe this was a facade, as when Ronnie asks why Wilf never responded to his letters he sent him, Wilf responds with, "I couldn't read half of them. Your handwriting is shocking," which you don't particularly want to say to someone who is extremely emotionally fragile, especially your own son. Ronnie asks if Wilf will be in attendance at Joanne's anniversary party on Monday, and Wilf asks him to leave it in the past, offering a hug. This small part is important, even though small, and Reese makes an amazing acting choice by shuffling uncomfortably backwards when Wilf offers Ronnie a hug, visibly wanting him to leave him alone even though he is, in quotes, trying to fix their relationship, which is broken for reasons we find out as Ronnie tells the story of Joanne's birthday through his own eyes. Ronnie, who is now live action compared to the animated background, actually, in truth, showed severe concern for Joanne. He didn't want her to light her candles by herself. So he asks Wise Owl, who you can now infer is literally and metaphorically their father. He is drunk and insults Ronnie, mocking him for asking permission. And then the bomb drops when Wise Owl makes Ronnie come upstairs with him. You can infer what happens, especially as Ronnie uncomfortably responds with, "I'd rather stay here," implying that this isn't the first time a similar situation has happened. Back in reality, Ronnie asks Wilf why he blamed him. Wilf painted himself as a hero, but left his son, traumatised from not only years and years of blame, but also being the reason he couldn't save his sister in that moment. Wilf begins to make the situation about himself, bringing up his reputation and how his daughter dying in a fire would tarnish it. He frames himself as the hero, not only to reflect on his actions towards Ronnie, but also to give an excuse onto why he couldn't save her. I thought Ronnie would become violent and try and avenge Joanne, however, he doesn't. He walks away after violently hitting Wilf with a pillow, covering him in feathers, which is obviously a comparison to Wise Owl, representing how Ronnie still sees his father as Wise Owl, despite Wilf claiming it was just a game and that Ronnie enjoyed it, even though Wilf would use his Wise Owl persona to get his way with his children. And as Ronnie realises he needs to tell someone and finally speak up to his mum about the horrific abuse presumably both him and Joanne experienced at his father's hands, Wilf stops him in his tracks, pleading him not to tell anyone. And then Wilf drops what is possibly the most cruel line in the whole episode, possibly even the whole series, which changes the tone of the scene completely from something almost triumphant to again disturbing and downhearted. The quote reads, "You mustn't say anything, Wise Owl won't let you. And we must always do what Wise Owl says." On "and we must always do what Wise Owl says," the voice effect changes to the voice effect that is on Wise Owl, the character in the PSAs. This line is powerfully tragic. Ronnie's first reactions imply that he is still hanging on to the Wise Owl gimmick that his father would play onto him as a child. Furthermore, Wilf is using this as a manipulation tactic for his mentally ill son, who he knows is easily gullible because he's fallen for this awful trick many times before. But even before we know if Ronnie has fallen for it, he coldly and harshly yet confidently responds, "Not anymore." This scene is unbelievably powerful. It shows a victim of abuse standing up to his abuser and making sure that he defiantly gets the point across that Wilf, despite trying his best to manipulate Ronnie, is completely powerless now. It's then you realise the whole purpose of Ronnie's trip, to confront his father for his actions and make him see what he has done. At first, when Ronnie was going to take his own life, it would have shown Wilf's effect on his mental health, but I believe that him not doing that made an even more powerful statement that the abusive cycle does not have to continue, and despite all of his hardships, Ronnie breaks the cycle. We cut to another animated segment of Ronnie leaving the house. Wise Owl is going insane behind him, begging him to come back, with no rhyme or reason behind his yelling, calling him back. And the animation shows Ronnie as a child, turning into an adult, and I think this represents Ronnie going from an easily gullible and malleable child to a man who has taken a stand and is going to tell his story, no matter what Wise Owl says. He's also telling this story for Joanne, giving her justice for something she was never ever able to speak about. He's also doing this for himself, clearing his name of the blame for the fire that caused his entire life to spiral downward and for his family to dislike him. As Wise Owl circles above his head, Ronnie stops and says defiantly the groundbreaking ending line that is also a clever play on his father's taxiderming hobby. In quotes, "Get stuffed." And the episode ends there, on Ronnie facing his abuser and getting away. This episode is extremely important, not only because it discusses a serious topic and keeping it serious. Wise Owl is a character played by Ronnie's father that kept children safe, and his father used that to manipulate and coerce his children, and I think that's vile, and I think that Wilf is one of the most evil characters in Inside Number 9, with Ron Cook playing him astoundingly well. Wilf goes from being drunk, verbally abusive, and generally horrible to Ronnie, to being nice and sweet, trying to use the same manipulation tactics he would use as Wise Owl to trick Ronnie into thinking his safety was guaranteed in his company, which it never ever was. We never get to see how Ronnie's situation ends, but I was glad this episode ended on a happier note than it began. When I first watched it, I truly believed that Ronnie would kill Wilf out of rage and revenge, but the fact he didn't is even more powerful, and shows now that Wilf has to live with the guilt of taking the blame for technically murdering his daughter and traumatising his son. And the line that the episode ends on, "Get stuffed," is amazing. I know it's a bit late now to mention it, but there's a bit in the episode that always makes me jump, when Ronnie opens the door and really loud, aggressive owl sounds play. He immediately shuts the door, and this is implied to be the room he was abused in, / a similar room. The aggressive owl noises are obviously because this room reminds him of Wise Owl or Wilf, which is a very clever use of audio. I want to praise Reese and Steve's writing of this topic and how carefully they handled it, making sure there were no jokes made about the abuse towards Ronnie, and the only joke being about the poorly taxidermied rabbit Ferrari, who is going to haunt my nightmares more than Wise Owl already has. I further want to praise Reese's performance and how well he fit the role of Ronnie, going from someone who is so traumatising he acts like a child, to a man who stands up against his abuser and gets him to feel guilt and remorse for his actions towards Ronnie. Voice acting from the children in this episode are amazing too in the animated segments, and they definitely up the emotional factor, especially when young Ronnie is by himself on the beach yelling for his mum, and the screams of Joanne burning in the fire as Wise Owl watches are absolutely bone-chilling, and it gives me goosebumps every time. Wise Owl is one of, if not, the best episode of Inside Number 9, in my opinion, because of the topics being handled so well and with so much care, and it has a happy ending, which is good to see in stories like this, where the abused break the cycle of abuse, and it is so good to see someone standing up for themselves, and that's how powerful something like this can be. Sorry this video got a bit deep, but I hope you enjoyed the speed paint in the background. This video took me like a really unbelievably long time. Because it was originally a ranking video of all the Inside Number 9 episodes, and then for some reason series 9 wasn't on the ranking, so it just it didn't make sense to me to post that, because I still have the footage if anyone wants me to post it, but it is just this speed paint again because I don't have any of the footage to put over it. But in that ranking I wanted to go into Wise Owl more, but it was a 40-minute video and I didn't want to rush an analysis of Wise Owl that I wasn't prepared to do, because that entire video was unscripted. So I decided to take this footage and use it for a scripted video about Wise Owl, which is the best episode of Inside Number 9. This is only part 1 in the series where I'm gonna try and do some art based on every single episode of Inside Number 9 that I love and know and will die for. The next one is hopefully Cold Comfort, which I only did next. I was originally gonna try and go from season 1 upwards, but I was watching Cold Comfort and I started drawing a scene from it, and then I was like, oh wait, I can use this for the video, so I'm gonna have to do that thing I did at the start where I just put the speed paint of the sketch in. I don't usually show off my art in such a vulnerable way like this, so I like seeing my own drawing process in a video, if you get what I mean. It was this video, the back video was about 40 minutes and I've literally had to speed it up so much, because this drawing took me over an hour and a half, so I have an hour and a half of drawing footage, but I sped it up. I 2x speed it, which made it 40 minutes, and then I've had to I might you might not be able to tell because I'm just good like that, and I gradually speed it up. If you go from the start, you'll see it's less sped up at some points, because I thought I wouldn't have enough time for certain bits of the video. I also did a lot of rambling that I had to cut out. There was a good 5 minutes of footage where I was just, not footage, recording where I was just tweaking because I couldn't read out one of the paragraphs right, because my writing in this script is so poor. I can't spell. But I managed to cut all of that out so you don't have to hear me rambling about the fact I need to sneeze. I'm sorry, if the, quote-unquote analysis was a bit all over the place as well. I'm not very good at these types of things, and this is my first time doing something properly like this, so I'm kind of out of my depth. I usually just make videos that take me 5 minutes, which, is also effort. But this is the first ever time I've felt happy with a video I've made, because I confidently wrote the script down. All my other videos are always unscripted. The next part is going to be Cold Comfort, which I'm excited to talk about because that's another one of my favourites. But yeah, please, if you haven't already, subscribe, because, you know, I got to 32, I think I'm on now, and I really want to get to like 50 by the end of 2025, because that'd be really cool. Maybe like 100. I think I have to have 300 subscribers to make money, so like, if you could like get me there, that'd be great. Yeah, so I just, like, the reason this video is a bit all over the place is because I wanted to be in depth as I could, but I obviously just, like, you know, did some unbelievably mental stuff and, like, went way too deep into certain bits. But yeah, as I said at the start, if anything in this video that I've discussed has affected you in any way whatsoever, there is help out there. You can talk to anyone. Ronnie's story is very important. I'm, like, not a victim or anything, but I think that it's so important for stories like this to be shared on TV for people to see and know that everything is going to be okay and they can stand up to people who have abused them in the past. And I think it's a very inspiring kind of episode to take a look at, if you get what I mean, because of the way Ronnie does react and the way he does behave in responding to his abuser. Please don't be afraid to reach out for help. It's in the end, it's going to help you out if you reach out for help. But yeah, hopefully if you see this video, if you have got to this point, you just know that anyway. But yeah, I think Wise Owl is just, it's such a good episode to really sit and think about, because it's so good. It's so good. There are so many Inside Number 9 episodes that are just, like, silly and goofy, and then you have, like, the ones mixed in where it's just so unbelievably, like not to, like, thingy or anything, but Cold Comfort is one that discusses, like, important issues while still having jokes that aren't about the situation. Thank you for watching. If you have watched to this point and have listened to this, like, 7 minutes of rambling, please subscribe. Please. I wasn't lying in that freaking vocal stim compilation when I said that. I say please too much for my own good. Okay,